Every single day, millions of people flow through London, a city buzzing with life, ambition, and progress. They pack the tube, they walk the ancient streets, they fill the parks. Their lives are playing out on a stage built over 2,000 years of history. But right under their feet, hidden in the dark, lies another city, a forgotten necropolis stretching for miles, built from centuries of death, sickness, and pure desperation. This isn't a city of stone and light, but of bone and shadow. Today, we're peeling back the pavement to uncover one of London's most unsettling secrets: a massive, underground network of the dead. We'll show you how waves of plague, a crisis of space, and a wild feat of Victorian engineering accidentally created a sprawling city of the dead that was never supposed to exist. And now, modern construction is bringing it all back to the surface. This is the story of the thousands of miles of coffins hidden just beneath your feet. Our story really kicks off in 1665 with the arrival of the Great Plague. London became a city of terror. If you were healthy, you sealed yourself in your home. If you were sick, you were carted away with the dead. The churchyards, the city's usual burial spots, were overwhelmed in weeks. They just weren't built for death on this industrial scale. In the end, an estimated 100,000 Londoners died, a quarter of the city's entire population. So what do you do with all those bodies? The solution was as brutal as it was simple: the plague pit. These weren't individual graves. They were massive, open trenches dug to handle the unending tide of victims. One of the most infamous was at Aldgate, right near where a busy tube station stands today. The writer Daniel Defoe, in his /Journal of the Plague Year, described what he saw with chilling detail. He called it a terrible pit, about 40 feet long, 16 feet wide, and eventually dug 20 feet deep into the London clay. Into that one hole, over just 2 weeks in September 1665, more than 1,100 bodies were thrown, often without coffins, and covered with quicklime to speed up decay. But the horror didn't stop when the plague did. A century and a half later, the city was still paying the price. The Aldgate pump, a public water source, became famous for its bright, sparkling, and cool water that had a weirdly agreeable taste. After hundreds died from cholera outbreaks in the area, an 1876 investigation made a sickening discovery. The water was filtering through the nearby plague pits and graveyards. That agreeable taste? It was the result of contamination from the masses of decaying bodies buried just feet away. The pump became known as the Pump of Death, and stands as a grim reminder of how the dead refused to stay buried. If the plague laid the ancient foundations for this city of the dead, the Victorian era engineered its expansion. By the mid-1800s, London's population had exploded, and the city was facing a brand new burial crisis. The parish churchyards were, once again, dangerously full. The situation was grotesque. Gravediggers, trying to make room, would just reopen fresh graves and cram more bodies inside. Coffins were stacked in pits sometimes inches below the street, and in some churchyards, the ground level had risen 5 or 6 feet from the sheer volume of human remains. The smell was unbearable, and the fear of disease from contaminated water was a constant threat. London needed a radical solution. In an age of steam and steel, it got one. It was called the London Necropolis Railway. Opened in 1854, this was a railway line built for one thing: transporting the dead. It ran from a dedicated station near Waterloo, 23 miles out into the Surrey countryside, to the new Brookwood Cemetery. Brookwood was designed to be the largest cemetery in the world, big enough to handle all of London's dead for centuries. The Necropolis Railway was a masterclass in morbid logistics. It ran an almost daily service, carrying hundreds of bodies a year. The living and the dead were separated by both class and religion. There were first, second, and third-class tickets for coffins, and different waiting rooms for mourners. The line didn't just move the newly deceased. It was also used to move entire graveyards. As London redeveloped, thousands of exhumed bodies were loaded onto these trains and relocated to Brookwood, a mass migration of the dead to make space for the living. For 87 years, this ghost train was a vital piece of city infrastructure before it was finally destroyed in a bombing raid in 1941. For decades, This underground necropolis was mostly forgotten. But as London started digging for its massive modern infrastructure, it became an act of accidental archaeology. The construction of Aldgate Station back in the 1870s had already disturbed the Great Plague Pit that Defoe described, unearthing countless remains. But it was the Crossrail project, starting in 2011, that gave us the most stunning look into this hidden world. As engineers tunneled for the new Elizabeth line, they sliced directly through London's layers of death. Near Liverpool Street Station, they found the Bedlam burial ground. It was used from 1569 to 1738, and archaeologists carefully removed around 3,500 skeletons. They discovered a mass grave with 40 individuals, all buried on the same day, a telltale sign of plague. Using DNA analysis from their teeth, scientists confirmed the presence of Yersinia pestis, the plague bacterium, proving who these victims were. At another site near Charterhouse Square, a dig uncovered a mass grave from an even earlier pandemic, the Black Death of the 14th century, with estimates suggesting tens of thousands of bodies buried in that one spot. And the finds weren't just plague victims. Near Holborn Viaduct, archaeologists unearthed an incredibly rare Roman funerary bed, the first complete one ever found in Britain, along with several rare oak coffins from almost 2,000 years ago. Every new tunnel seemed to prove the same thing. Modern London is built directly on its dead. So what about that title, 2,000 Miles of Coffins? Is there really a continuous tunnel of that length? Well, no. London doesn't have a vast ossuary network like the catacombs of Paris. The reality is something different, and honestly way more complex. The / 2,000 miles / is a metaphor for the unbelievable scale of this forgotten city of the dead. It isn't one single tunnel, but a sprawling, disconnected network. It's what you get when you add up every Roman cemetery outside the old city walls. It's every one of the hundreds of parish churchyards, swollen with bodies, their ground-level rising feet above the pavement. It's the dozens of plague pits from 1665, each holding over 1,000 souls. It's the estimated 20,000 Londoners buried at the Bedlam site alone, and the thousands more exhumed by the Victorians. When you start to map these locations, Aldgate, Charterhouse Square, Liverpool Street, Southwark, you see one city mapped right on top of another. A necropolis hidden just beneath the metropolis. It's a patchwork of mass graves and forgotten burial grounds, a subterranean web that stretches for miles under supermarkets, parks, and tube stations. Commuters rushing through Liverpool Street Station are passing through a 17th century burial ground. Office workers in Farringdon are walking over the graves of Black Death victims. That is the true meaning of the 2,000 Miles of Coffins, an unseen burial system woven into the very fabric of the city. London's history is one of constant reinvention, but as these discoveries prove, the past is never really gone. If finding out about this hidden world fascinates you, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We're always digging up new stories, and you won't want to miss where we go next. From the raw horror of the plague pits to the grim ingenuity of the Necropolis Railway and the incredible finds of modern archaeology, we've seen how London literally became a city built on bone. This isn't just ancient history in dusty books. It's a physical reality, a layer of darkness and memory that's just a few feet beneath the surface. And the story isn't over. Recent excavations keep uncovering more of this subterranean world. It's a constant reminder that every time we walk through London, we are treading on ghosts. The real, unsettling question isn't just what we've already found, but what else is still hidden, waiting in the dark right under our feet.